remember me? It was such a lovely email I got back, Radha, and I was so thrilled. And indeed, one forgets faces and people, but it was so lovely. And look where you are these days and where I
Oh,
am, and happy. And along the way, I never regretted any of the steps, and I always enjoyed what I was doing to the fullest.
yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, now we want to know more about our game changer, Radha, and what you're doing, what's going on. So, Laura, I think you would like to put the first question, right?
Yes, Radha, you constantly develop your visions further, it seems.
Yeah.
So, what is your secret to move on even in these challenging times? And what were the biggest learning curves for you?
Uh, well, circumstances sometimes dictate visions and how you're going to behave, and we all know what we've gone through of late. And then this last year and a half especially, there's been a time of introspection and to really, as you pointed out, Astrid, earlier, it's about being positive and positivity and reminding yourself of the great things that have happened. And fortunately at Rosewood, 10 years ago when I first joined the company, working with my boss, CEO Sonia Cheng, who's very young, very enthusiastic, very driven, very passionate. Uh, Things have evolved, and we were a small, diminutive company. When I say things have evolved, they've evolved by the month, by the year. We've been able to kind of organize ourselves because we are a small, nimble company, and to create, new ongoing visions, if you will, depending on the circumstances. So, and we talk about relationship hospitality, and we talked about relationship earlier, as Astrid pointed out, like yours and mine, Laurie. But at Rosewood, it really, relationship hospitality is sort of something that we've coined, and it's always been a critical pillar of our strategy, and goes back to the core fundamentals of the industry, as you and I know, Laurie. Focusing on the guest, being a positive and active pillar of our communities, creating opportunities for growth for our associates, and delivering value and returns for our owner partners. And even at the sort of youthful age, whichever point that you start off your career, those fundamentals are important to us. And this is the reason why we joined this industry. And this is why we think it's a calling. And people, as we know, are the heart of the hospitality industry, and as leaders. And I think what we've been able to, for the most part, is continue to care for and better our sort of collective communities through whatever means possible. So at the beginning of this crisis, one of the biggest things that we learned was we quickly realized that we had to act immediately. I mean, as most of our industry bastions did as well, and the people and places that move it forward. So, without these communities, we would be nothing, and to come back to. So we launched something that's called Rosewood Race, and I know there are other partners who've instigated their own initiatives. And this Rosewood Race basically was a multifaceted relief initiative that was designed to aid our associates who were mostly affected by COVID-19, as well as the sort of destinations in which we operate. So it wasn't just for our workers, but it's for those destinations. And this Rosewood Race, we've realized, is something that philanthropy has really rung true in all of our lives this last year and a half, and something that's going to stay with us is going to be the heart and soul of what we do. When we talk about relationship hospitality, it's not just a sort of commercial aspect and taking care of our stakeholders, but also taking care of the communities. So that was a sort of a vision that's evolved over the last year and a half, a sort of a higher purpose vision, if you will.
Yeah, that's important. Higher purpose. I think a lot of us have gone through that as well.
Yeah.
What is our higher purpose of living, of being? Why do we have our companies? What is our role as an entrepreneur? Where do we, if we are not here anymore, what do we want to leave behind? And I think this is personally, if I talk to many entrepreneurs, I always hear these same questions, and it's very, very good, because I think that's the positive thing about this pandemic. that we are looking for a higher, we know there's a higher purpose, but we have never had time or a motivation to do so, right?
Yeah, and it's one thing talking about it, and it's another doing it. And what I was pleased to see was that at our grassroots level, at the property level, the initiatives for this Rosewood raise was a sort of, it was a brand-wide associates relief fund, as well as property-driven efforts to kind of support the local community. So, for example, in Montecito and Bangkok, we launched Rosewood on the Move food trucks, to deliver complimentary meals to frontline workers, first responders. And then in Paris, we, at the Hotel de Crillon with the artist JR, which was a fantastic street artist, as we know, and a local, developed a local community association, which is called Refitario, which was actually founded by the celebrity chef Massimo Bottura, to prepare complimentary meals for the first responders and for the unprivileged people as well. So it wasn't just COVID related. We extended it further, and so it was, there was a clever sort of a vintage Citroen ice cream truck this summer to outside of the property to surprise and delight locals. And so these little moments we've all realized it wasn't just a high purpose initiative, but at the property level, everybody coming together, inspiring each other, motivating each other to do the right thing.
Perfect. Absolutely. Now, Lore, what next one about Row? Are we all curious to hear? You guys are just going crazy about expansion. So
yeah. So well, the obvious question is, Radha, what is Rosewood? In what situation is it now? And are all your hotels open and operating? And what plans are you foreseeing?
Yeah. So thanks for the question, Laurie. I'm very pleased to say that almost all of our hotels, all of our almost 30 hotels, are open globally, with the except of the ones that have to remain closed due to the sort of local restrictions. But I would say 90% of our properties are open. I think everybody's feeling it. We're very optimistic about the future of travel because, travel, people will always want to travel regardless, and travel will always be resilient. And the increase in vaccinations, certainly in the US, and of course in certain parts of Europe. I'm not sure about Germany as yet, but I do know, I was listening to BBC this morning, but in England, 3/4 of the population have already had their first vaccinations, which is very encouraging. So the increase in vaccinations, the declining infection rates together sort of instilling great confidence in travelers here. I was just in, as I mentioned to you, I think earlier, I was in New York last week, and to see people out and about, I mean, the streets are great. I mean, it feels like Europe because everything extended onto the roadside. The challenge, of course, is getting into the restaurants. They've had to sort of temper the covers that they're able to serve because there appears to be staff shortage because everybody's open all at once, and so there is this shortage of people, and I'm hearing that in Europe as well.
Yeah.
So,
correct.
So there will be challenges, but in as far as the business aspect itself is concerned, we expect this summer to be very busy with leisure travel. We've seen that we've had the best start in all the years since we've opened in Las Ventanas and in Mayakoba in Mexico. New York is kind of building up, ramping up. Dallas is ramping up. Caribbean, where you are allowed to travel to, is certainly ramping up. And I think that in Europe, as things open up, we've just opened Paris, we've just opened Tuscany, we opened London. So as as foreign travel is allowed to come into these countries, I think it's going to be great. And if I look at the bookings ahead for the last quarter, I mean, there's just unprecedented demand, and it's pushing the ADR up, to sort of unprecedented levels at the moment. So it's very encouraging. And I think, as I said, as more and more people are vaccinated and borders around the world continue to open, long haul international travel is poised to return with a vengeance, because I think people have sort of done enough of domestic travel, done enough of sort of the same drive market properties, and so yeah, it's very exciting actually.
Absolutely, but you're also opening in Germany, right? So what are your openings planned? I mean, there's a lot happening.
There is actually. So certainly, you know, in Asia, we've seen, obviously it's in our backyard, you know, in Hong Kong, and we've seen a lot of development there. And in Europe, you're right, Astrid. We are working on opening up a property in Munich, in Vienna, the new Rosewood in London, which is now going to be called the Chancery Rosewood, the old US Embassy, Venice. We have projects lined up potentially in, well, Rome has also been announced, and other parts of the continent that we have not announced as yet. But we've been very careful, very thoughtful through this pandemic, that we're not just going to go out and just go and find opportunities and open everywhere. It has to be very strategic, very deliberate, coincides with our sort of vision for the brand as to be the sort of, you know, the best in the business, if you will. And we don't want to be recognized just as your typical hospitality brand. We want to be rubbing shoulders with other luxury brands as well. And so therefore, these destinations that we picked, such as Munich, which I think is going to be a stunning property.
Wow. Can't wait.
And yeah, we've been working on that for the last 4 years, and we hope to open in the next 2.5 years.
We'll come for the opening.
You will. You're right there. Yeah, I'm going to start preparing the invitations now.
After 4 years. Well, I mean, that's really cool. I mean, you know, if you have these expansion plans and you are so ahead of things and so, I mean, good in what you do. And I mean, Rosewood is a love brand, I would say. People just know exactly what they get, what they have. It's just, you've created something really special. And now the pandemic came. I mean, didn't you have moments that where you were like saying, oh my God, this is not gonna, what are we gonna, I mean, did you have moments where you were sitting there? And if you didn't, or if you had shortly, what drives you? What helps you to go through a crisis like that? What do you do as Radha to not give up, to continue for your team and be such a strong leader?
Yeah, no, look, we've all thought that, right? We've all thought that personally and professionally, what's going to happen, how we're going to organize ourselves. And you just have to be careful. You have to kind of dig deep in your memory bank and say, okay, while we've not had a pandemic like this, while we've not been in a situation like this ever before, but there have been other crises along the course of my career, and certainly our careers. And I look back at 9/11, the terrorist attack then, the of course, you know, following that, the crisis back in 2009, the economic crisis then. And you look back and you look into sort of memory bank and you think, okay, how did we manage that? While this is different, it's no different. It's just a lot more pronounced. It's a lot, you know, it's been going on for a lot longer. And of course, we didn't know how the scientists were going to work the vaccines, and how that magic was going to be sort of, you know, administered into our bodies. So we didn't know that. Now, looking back on that, in every situation, as I mentioned earlier, there is an opportunity to do, in this scenario, there was this opportunity to do right by the communities, to do right by the, fellow humans. But at the same time, also, we felt that, let's look at the Rosewood. Let's look at what makes Rosewood special. It's not just about the fact that we've got this refined, engaging service, all of the things we brought back, if you will, back 20, 30 years ago, when traditionally hotels were about being very fine-tuned when it came to product and service. And so there was a sort of traditional aspect combined with a sort of a modernistic view on how hospitality should be, especially given the nature of the bench strength that is available to us. Because we've realized also through this last year and a half that And as I mentioned, it's going to be hard to find bench strength in the future because
Yeah.
people have realized that there are other vocations in life that give you kinder hours versus the hospitality industry, which, as we know, in order to propel yourself to higher levels, you have to know the craft and you have to work and you have to graft at your craft. And
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
and we've realized that, look, we're not able to, while we may not be able to motivate our teams to do that, let's just take a look at our culture one more time and say, okay, who is that person that we're going to hire? So we've spent a lot of time looking at our culture, our talent culture bank, and how we're going to uh, uh, sort of invite future hoteliers, future general managers, future senior leaderships, and and what we've realized that, you know, we've put ourselves to task to say relationship hospitality, go back to the sort of ground zero and go back to the basics, because it has to be your calling.
Yes.
And so we've realized at Rosewood that there will be people who still want to work with people, and they still want a sort of passionate about this industry. The key is, how do you coach them, mentor them, and instill that passion in them? And so so yes, you have to remain positive in your outlook. Our industry is resilient because there's only so much material that you can have. One thing that you can never take away from your memory bank is the fact that you go out on these adventures, whether it's with your families, and discover these uncharted territories out there. And I think with Rosewood's Eyes, especially where we're developing, where we're opening and going to these authentic, unique destinations, be it sort of remote locations as well as city destinations. I mean, let's face it, Munich was not on everybody's bucket list. I mean, everybody talks about Paris, Florence, Venice, Vienna, and all those wonderful cities that come to mind immediately. But when you talk about Munich, I think one can really educate themselves. And that's why we sort of, you know, took it upon ourselves to find these destinations where our client may not have traveled before, but would be looking to travel in the future.
Absolutely. Can you just, I love this word. You have to, you said you have to listen to your calling, or you have to have your calling. And, you know, we have so many colleagues that questions through the pandemic that said, I think I have to leave the industry. I just can't take this anymore. And I think I know exactly what you mean with the calling for the tourism industry. But can you just explain? I just would love to hear a couple of sentences about, why are we so crazy about these guys that have a calling like us? What is it?
It's a drug.
It's a drug.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, I look, I don't know. It's about that paranoia to. I mean, I think you almost have to have an OCD if you want to get into operations certainly in hospitality, because, you know, perfection is something that we strive for in our, especially at our level, at Rosewood level. It's you know, we're paranoid about detailing, but most importantly, I think it's about people. We've realized, especially, if not before, then certainly in these last 18 months. I mean, what are you going to remember when you leave this earth? You're going to remember people and the people that came into your lives. You're not going to measure it by how many cars you had, how many watches you had, and what you were able to do. But philanthropy, people, and, you know, look, in hospitality, it's philanthropy every day. I mean, we're serving people every day. We're imparting our energy, our soul, and our spirit onto others, and creating these sort of life bonds. And that is the beauty of our industry, because it's the one industry, no matter how you slice and dice it, whichever discipline you look at, you're constantly with people, and you're constantly with communities, and taking their spirits and providing these are good, positive spirits. And that's why you hire right. So I think, yes, it is a drug, to Laurie's point. And it's also about the fact that it's about humility and wanting to please people. We're hoteliers. and certainly in the hospitality industry, and you know, in your side of the wall as well, in your side of the sort of industry, we're very sensitive people, and because we are sensitive people, we crave for attention. If you see it that way, crave for attention to the extent that we want people to notice what we're delivering is good for them as well.
Yeah, that's so well
Very
said.
well put.
Yeah, absolutely, so well said. And I can feel every single sentence that you have said. Yeah, and we are almost at the end of the 30 minutes. It's amazing. Time is flying so quickly. And I can only share just a little bit of, let's say, excitement that you have brought about New York, because I'm touring the first time now since Sunday, and I was in Cologne yesterday, and it was the first day on Monday where the restaurants outside opened again. I mean, I cannot tell you, the people are going wild. I mean, you have to go with Test, and also today in Düsseldorf, people are just, if you can feel this energy, it's just absolutely amazing. You know, and the good thing is that the agents are really getting busy. I had meetings yesterday with 2-3 agents. One said, sorry, I come back in 10 minutes, I have a private jet booking. And I'm like, yes, please go, but come back. But, you know, so I mean, no, but the energy is so amazing at the moment, and the people just want to live and breathe and book their holidays. And I can only share, and I have completely underestimated these emotions that we are having when this is happening now.
That's because people don't take life for granted anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every moment is special.
It's super, super exciting. And I just really would, we would like to say a big, huge thank you, Radha, for your amazing time for us, that you shared your wisdom and your positiveness and the philosophy of Rosewood, which is something we should all watch and look at and be motivated about. So thank you for your time. I wish all of us listening and here the best in the world, that our businesses pick up again to the best, that we are happy people, that we stay passionate, are being called, and never hesitate and doubt what we are doing. So thank you so much. And I'm happy that I brought you two together again.
Yes,
absolutely.
37 years ago.
Well,
it's remarkable.
We were in our early 20s, I think, and
I can see that Laurie has been reading a lot of books since then, because if you look at the shelf at the back, she's
yeah, absolutely. No, it's been great, Radha, and thank you so much for the time. I know you're a busy man, jetting all over the place, finding new fantastic locations, and we so look forward to the opening in Munich and Vienna and wherever else here in Europe you are going to spread your wings. It'll be fantastic, and I hope we can catch up in person very, very soon.
Very much looking forward to you coming to the opening. Thank you so much.
Radha, thank you dear all for listening.
For having me on.
Take care of yourself.
Take care. Take care, everybody. Thanks to all.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.